Yeah, okay.
Okay, it's 10 o'clock. We'll call the Sawyer County Administration Committee meeting to order, please. Madam Clerk, may we have roll call?
Tweed Schuman,
Here.
Ron Buckles.
Here.
Dale Schrader. Tom Duffy. Ron Kinsey.
Thank you all. Let the record indicate we have a full quorum. Is there anybody by Zoom? Nobody. Okay. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Certification of compliance with open meetings law, Madam Clerk.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to number 5, meeting agenda has been presented. Number 6, public comment. I have one form filled out. Ms. Zelmer, please step up to a mic, state your name and address.
Linda Zilmer, 902 Howard Hill Lane, Birchwood, Wisconsin, Backwater property owner. My public comment today is under the item number 12, policy reviews, the ethics complaint process, and the Sawyer County Board policies and procedures manual. Appreciate all the committees in this committee working on updating those, and especially with the ethics complaint process. My comment has to do with what's been drafted so far is a very narrow definition of an ethics complaint, primarily limited to a county board member or employee receiving items of value regarding, carrying out their responsibilities. But I do question if this ethics process could also include things where there are other types of conflicts of interest. And maybe one example would be one that I've observed over the years in zoning, where if somebody holds both a town official position and a county supervisor position, they would abstain from voting on the town level so that they could vote if they're on the zoning committee here. And there's Jim Bassett used to have us, his personal way that he handled those things. But I've seen as new members come on, there's uncertainty as to whether people should abstain or not. Should they remove themselves from the table or the room? And so clarification there. Also conflict of interest, say if a county board supervisor holds a position in the Sawyer County LCO EDC, as well as on the county board, is there something that should be disclosed if they go to vote as a member of committee of the board? Or even in other forms of government, like tribal form of government, is there something that needs to be disclosed as potential conflict when somebody's voting as both a tribal member and otherwise? And then also, as far as a public process for if there is a feeling that there is a violation of board policies and procedures. So for instance, and I'll just cite something I feel that I've experienced that I'd like to bring forward is that a county supervisor may be interfering with the ability to provide public testimony, not just public comment. And so if somebody feels that a due process is being violated with regard to a public hearing, how do you bring that forward? So those are just, thank you for this draft of the ethics process, but can it be expanded or can it be addressed in board policies and procedures? Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Might be anybody online then? Later, okay. Thank you. All right, moving on, number 7. Meeting minutes from our July 14th meeting. Everybody had a chance to review those. Any edits? Mr. Kinsley? Okay.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kinsley, second by Mr. Buckles to approve our meeting minutes of July 14, 2022 as presented. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 8, Veteran Service Department report. Gary?
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
So for July, we had, I had 583 phone calls, 308 letters, emails, and faxes, and 123 office visits. As far as veterans claims, dealing with compensation and pension, I had 55 disability claims that I put in And we've received, at that point, retroactive payment of $196,967.60 for claims decided in the veteran's favor. My training is up to date. I guess we've been very busy. I don't know, they passed, they being Congress, and Senate, passed a bill called the Pact Act 2022. And it recognizes, it added for the generation that went to Iraq and Afghanistan, 20 presumptive conditions for those veterans, which is going to increase is going to increase my workload quite a bit. Because there was a lot of things that were added, and a lot of them, and none of them were good. Let's put it that way. None of them were good. I think my generation is just about catching up to the Vietnam generation for bad illnesses. They added for the Vietnam veterans. I don't know if you remember, but for a long time, the VA did not recognize the Blue Water Navy, that the people that worked on the ships within 12 nautical miles of the Vietnam coast for presumptives of Agent Orange exposure. And quite honestly, the rivers flow out to the ocean, and the ships use the desalinate the water for drinking, plus the drift. And I use this as an example. I thought this was just crazy in the first place, but when there's a forest fire up in northwestern Canada, we often smell the smoke, but yet the Agent Orange defoliant that was being sprayed didn't drift out to sea for a long time. Well, the VA finally said, okay, if a ship was within 12 nautical miles, we recognize those veterans as being exposed to Agent Orange. However, they did not recognize the other bases that Agent Orange was used at in Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, in the territory of Guam. They were all added on the Pact Act. So there's a lot of veterans in the past that I had claims for that went in and they were denied because the VA said Agent Orange exposure did not exist there. And now I got to go back and redo all those claims back to the VA. The biggest takeaway, veterans are pretty much veteran centric and thinking about, okay, I was there, how does this apply to me? But one thing I don't want overlooked is the veteran surviving spouses. If their husband or wife died and it was under one of these presumptive conditions and they served in any of these areas, I can file a claim for that spouse. It's called dependent indemnity compensation. And at today's rate, it's around $1,700 a month in payment, but it's not so much the money that's important. A lot of our veterans don't have insurance, and they're paying premiums to have an insurance up to, well, I guess this generation is pretty much in Medicare. But if I get a successful claim for the spouse with a DIC or dependent indemnity compensation, I can turn around and file with the VA to get them an actual health insurance with the VA. It's called Champ VA. It's a really good insurance, and they don't have to pay premiums. There are co-pays for certain things, but it will improve their quality of life quite a bit. So, and then the other thing it added is they looked at, we had a lot of veterans that were exposed to radiation, cleanup on Atoll, cleanup on B-52 in Palermo, Spain, a cleanup of nuclear weapons in Thule, Greenland, were added. So those veterans, and a lot of them, again, probably have passed. But if their surviving spouses are out there, and we can, and they, their husbands or wives served there, I can again file a claim for this basically service-connected death of the veteran. And with that, if it's successful, claim DIC and then Champ VA. So it's really a I'm going to be busy. So I mean, I was busy already, but now it's been get on the bicycle and pedal hard, and don't stop. So, and it's a good thing in a way. It's also a bad thing because I don't want any of this junk that, and to get there, we've already had several hundreds, if not thousands of veterans die of these conditions. So that's how it gets recognized as far as being a presumed condition due to service. Any questions?
Yeah,
Yep, Mr. Buckles.
Gary, talking about the Agent Orange, I had a brother that was a Vietnam vet and he passed away from it.
Okay,
So, you know,
surviving spouse,
yes, there is.
then that, I don't know where she lives.
Well, they live out in the state of Washington, or she does.
I would recommend that she goes and sees a veteran service officer there in the state of Washington. And they're gonna need his death certificate, they're gonna need his 214, a DD form, that's his discharge document. And that one form is what cracks the door. Now, whether you get through the door or not depends on the
Right,
service
right.
records and what's been diagnosed. You know, I'm looking at, I've got some other veterans that have died here, you know, with COVID, and a lot of them, and then they're Gulf War veterans. Well, when they first come out with some of the presumptives, actually it's the second time, so this is the third round of presumptives added to my generation of veterans that I served with. But the second time they come out, they said basically anything from the mouth to the lungs cancerous is a presumed condition for serving in the Gulf. Now that's expanded, but it also went in about the lungs. The lungs are a huge thing. Because of the toxins that we were exposed to. And they may have, they may have weakened the individual's ability to breathe and to function, and then COVID comes along and just finishes them off. And that's a stance I'm gonna try. I've got 2 or 3 veterans that have surviving spouses. I'm gonna try that avenue and see if I can't win. Because, you know, the military, when the military accepts an individual, a service member into the service, they're saying that person is 100%, or they might be 90%, and the service accepts that 10% disability that they're coming in with. After that, you know, if something happens to them, and you know, an event that occurs, in this case for like Gulf War veterans or Persian Gulf veterans, that event needs a diagnosis. There's 3 things I have to have for a successful claim. And one is the individual was discharged under honorable conditions. An event occurred in service. In this case, they were in country, Afghanistan, Iraq, or any of these countries surrounding them. And then the third thing is the diagnosis. So lung cancer. That would be the diagnosis. So that nexus has to be there to have a successful claim every time. So that's basically what I would relay to your sister-in-law,
I will do that. Thank you.
and go from there.
Yep,
Okay.
appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank you.
sir. Mhm.
Thank you, Gary. Any other questions for
But
Gary?
nothing happens if you don't have that DD 214.
Nothing happens, nothing. I can't do anything really. So we have to go get the 214 in a lot of cases.
The 214, is that supposed to be registered in the register of deeds?
It is, and a lot of, in the service branches, I know that I shouldn't say I know, they're supposed to tell the veteran, you know, when they're the service member, when they're leaving, just when you go home, you know, get this registered at, you know, at your courthouse. So if you lose it, you have a copy of it. That's how important it is. So, but it doesn't always happen. And then the other part, you know, the National Personal Records Center in St. Louis had a huge fire, and they lost a good portion of records. And with that, no 214, no, their medical records were in there, their service records were in there, and their discharge document were in there. And without that, I have nothing. I can't, I mean, unless it's a presumed condition and we can somehow, they had a letter to home, to mom or whatever. Saying what was going on and where they were. It's very difficult to prove that and have a successful claim. And I will tell you, I've lost at least 3 claims due to that. And it didn't have to happen. A lot of times I'll have family members call me and go, Gary, my son or daughter is going to get out of the service. What do they need to do? And it's like, you tell them to go get copies of all their medical records. They're going to tell them, they're going to promise them that they're going to send this to wherever it's supposed to go. And go get it, copies of their service records, all their training, all their TDYs, keep the recall rosters for other people that they were with, so they don't forget the names. They have something to go back where we can go back and dig and research and try to find these people. So we try to do that, and yet it doesn't always happen. Well, some of them listen, some of them don't listen. But so anyway, I just try to catch them and steer them to do what they need to do to take care of themselves in the future when I'm not here and somebody else is, that they have the resources to go back to the VA and go, no, this was me, this is what I did, this is what happened. So
But DD 214, I didn't know that had to be registered to all its own.
it doesn't have to be registered, but it's a safe store. It's a safe store keeping. It should be on file. But like I said, we've had 3 veterans that where the federal government said, no, we're going to take care of this for you. And then they had a fire, so it's like all the important documents, your house, get a safety deposit box, put on file with the county, have that stuff, spread out. So if you lose one thing, you don't lose it all. The other thing, I had a few house fires too, since I've been doing this job, where people have lost all their documentation. So.
Wow, thank you, Gary.
Yep.
Great report. And you're aware that I think there are tribal veteran service officers.
Rusty Barber? Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
you still stay in contact with them, or?
Yeah. Normally, if he needs something, he'll call, but but other than that, he's doing his thing as far as I know.
Okay. All right, anything else for Gary?
Thank you for all you do for our
Yeah.
veterans. Gary. Appreciate it.
What a great advocate you are, Gary.
Yes.
All right.
Thank-
Nothing else then, we'll move on to number 9, information technology. Mike, thank you for the report.
All right, yeah, so I submitted my monthly report. Major projects, we were assisting a radio consultant with the Law D project that's up and running. There are still some glitches to work out. As far as we're concerned on the back end, the network infrastructure, it's up and it's stable. So they're just working stuff out on the actual radio part right now, but for the most part, it's working. The other project that we had, we replaced aging the video system in the jail. And there have been some issues with that. So we're working with the vendor that did the engineering and the install. They just told me they should be out next week to help work on that. So in case you hear anything about that, we're trying to stay on top of it. We finally got our capital improvement project that we had scheduled for this year is underway. A lot of projects that require electronics have huge delays in lifetime. And we're going to find that too with any things going forward, like with new courtrooms. But we're starting that now. That's going to be probably completed by the end of the year. It may actually go into next year, but that's working now. It should give us better capability to recover from errors. We'll have like 2 data centers, one here in the courthouse, one in sheriff. One has a problem, the other will kind of fire up automatically. What else do we have going on here? Those are the major things. So if there's any other questions.
Anything else for Mike?
What do you do, Mike?
Absolutely. All right, thanks, Mike. All right, number 10. Petition for annexation, City of Hayward. Discussion, possible action. Mr. Alvarado, I'm sure we're gonna hear from you on this, sir.
Nope.
I can tell you why.
Yeah.
Okay,
The reason they're requesting the annexation is so they don't have to create another ward with no voters. Because that's what's gonna happen, and then they'll have to have that on every ballot going forward if they have a.
that's no vote.
That's
Is
no
that what you
vote.
said?
Yes, because there's nobody living in that section, so right now it'll create a new ward. if they Don't get annexed. No, not in that section of the.
Ward like a district.
Yeah, like
Which they
Ward
all have
1
the
and 2.
ballots. So why would it not be split? in-
So if it redraws, they can combine it with an existing, I think, Ward 4. And that's what that would do.
So is this city of Hayward's request?
Yes, they are requesting.
Yes, you're not acting, the annexation is not under your purview.
Right.
It's changing the
ward
boundaries of
boundaries.
voting words.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't
okay,
get to approve their annexation
Right.
because it's already done,
Okay,
but they're asking us if we would allow them to redraw the boundaries after the redistricting so that it can be included in Ward 4.
right, and you have a
And this is
resolution,
done in other
right?
counties. It's done in other counties all the time.
Go ahead, Rob.
What district is it in now?
I think it's in the town of Hayward and it's going over to the city of Hayward.
Yeah, it's in District 4 and it's going to District 7. They're requesting it to be moved into District 7.
And you are in favor of this, Madam Clerk, huh?
It would
And
be a
Ann,
lot
your
less
thoughts
work.
on this?
What's that?
Your thoughts on this resolution?
It doesn't happen very often, from what I understand, but I think it's fine for the county to approve it.
There's two different methods. They can do it through ordinance or resolution. Some do it. either way.
Mr. Duffy, Mr. Buckles. Mr. Schleter,
Good question.
Mr. Kinsley, yes.
We just approved this boards, districts, not too long ago. How's that come into play? Because normally you do that every 10 years.
Do you remember what it said about a supervisory district? Does it change the supervisory district? I can't remember.
Just, I mean, I'm not against, it, I just want to know,
It
because we just approved it, and now we have a change. The steps, and maybe this is the steps.
This is the
Step to
yeah,
change the boundaries.
Yep.
Or to move so you don't have to create another ward.
Correct.
Yeah, because it's very good.
Okay, committee, so we have a resolution in front of us.
Then does this affect you personally?
If we don't do it, then it means more
Work for you
work
as a
in the
company, but-
elections. Yeah.
And if it's approved, how soon would it take effect? As it will make a difference in the members election?
I'm not sure. How soon, I would imagine as soon as GIS can redraw the boundary.
Yeah, I think they have to submit this to the state and then the state amends the boundaries.
Well,
Yes, it does.
we're in the month of August. If we change it now, how does that affect November, September, November's elections?
It doesn't,
There's no population,
yeah.
there's no electors being
If
moved.
we don't do it, then we'll have another ballot. to print. For no voters,
For no borders.
and the programming has to be completed for that section.
And this resolution would go on to the full county board.
Yes.
Okay. So,
What kind of property is this?
Vacant property.
Nobody lives in it, no?
I got there's a map here.
I just remember how fast the city responded when we were trying to do the building project. Sure,
Now.
it's better.
That shouldn't come here.
Yeah, we can
I'm with you.
postpone it another month. All right, Mr. Chairman,
Okay,
you know, in favor of having less work for our clerk, so I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
Okay.
this
A motion
annexation.
by Mr. Buckles to approve the resolution changing supervisory district boundaries in districts 4 and 7 resulting from a city of Hayward annexation.
Yeah, I'll second.
Second by Mr. Duffy. Is there any further discussion? And then we'll move this on to the full county board. Mr.
Yes.
Buckles.
Yes.
No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
It's a commercial piece of property.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, for your
There's something
input
on there.
there. Number 11, human resource report.
Good
Rose,
morning.
please.
Right.
You have my report. We've been making progress hiring EMS positions, which is good. The only other thing I have to add is we have received a retirement resignation in our clerk of court's office. That's not reflected on. Any questions?
Yes, yes.
Highway department,
Mhm.
when the senior person exit that house, did we have anything in writing from him yet?
The senior person,
Commissioner?
No.
So we can't do nothing until he does that.
Okay.
Because how long, I guess what I'm wondering is how long it's gonna take to replace him.
mhm. He should provide a month notice.
It's not very long.
No, I agree with you.
Thank you.
Rose, have you seen any positive now with our wage increases, retention that we've recently done? What are you hearing out there?
Yes, I think it's all been, well received by the staff, appreciated. We're still struggling over in the jail. We just are, but every county is, but we are struggling then.
Well, it was brought up, Rose, at the public safety meeting, that on these dispatch, they get a lot of shadows, but when they do the shadows, they don't want that job,
No,
so they leave,
it dispatch for sure. You either love it or you don't.
or you don't, yes.
It just is what it is. It's a very difficult job.
Sure. Well, it really looks like we've shored up our finance department. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Very important. Okay, anything else for Rose? Anyone?
Yeah, I got another question.
Yes.
In the finance, no, because our treasurer came out of highway. And we're down to one person out there, is the new finance person that we hired. Working with some of the finance on highway.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you so much. Rose.
Thank you.
Just maybe expand on that. The intent of bring that position in, and hopefully we're not throwing too much on it to start with, but the new finance director as well as the accountant have already met with highway and are filling in the gaps at highway. Also have the accountant who's been in the clerk's office and in the treasurer's office, learning the payables and the receiving and depositing. So we have some redundancy as well as payroll. So there'll be some backup. Just so there, we have people missing or transitions. We have multiple people knowing different duties.
Good, great. All right, number 12. Policy review is revisions, discussion, possible action. We'll start with 12A. The ethics complaint process, and we have a draft in front of us, and I gotta thank you, Andy, and all your work putting into these documents. Okay.
Yeah, I have not made any
Thank
changes.
you, Rose.
Yeah.
Not many changes to what you received last month. I did want to point out one item for discussion. It's on, let's see, page 20. It's highlighted in yellow. I don't know if I really got into detail. These two highlighted areas are kind of, more for discussion for you. Maybe add into the borrowed this heavily from a couple other counties in their ethics process. You did have, like I mentioned last month, you have a code of ethics. There's a code of ethics in the board policies and procedures, and there's code of ethics in the employee manual. But beyond kind of outlining what ethics is and potential violations, there was no guiding document that said this is how a complaint's made, this is the follow through, these are the people involved in making the decision. So that's what this was intended to do. And looking at potential ethics policies, I saw two different schools of thought as far as the board makeup. Currently, I think you do have a 5-member board, ethics board with 3 board members and then 2 citizens. So that's what's highlighted in yellow. There's also the school of thought where, because these are usually county elected officials or employees, that your ethics board could be somebody does not include anybody that's a member of county employment or a county official. So it'd be all outside members. Just want to make sure you're aware that that's a different way to approach it. I'd say the majority of ethics boards at county level that I'm aware of usually are county board members and some citizens.
So it should be.
It's because it's
Yeah.
partly a peer, partly you're in charge of the employees, but also it's a peer group. But you also have some citizens to balance it out. The other part is the complaint process as to where it would go. Some have it go to the county clerk, some to the corporation counsel, some to the administrator. So kind of under 4B that's highlighted in yellow, what I put in here, and it's partly because we don't have a corporation counsel in the building, is that the ethics violation, when the complaint is filed, it can be filed with the administrator or the county clerk, who will then forward to the corporation counsel. The reason the corporation counsel is because it's going to be a somewhat legal process to have the complaint heard. So they're seen as usually the responsible entity to do that. If the administrator or the clerk is the subject of the complaint, the submission will be made to the board chair, who will then forward to corporation counsel or designee. Or the complaint could be forwarded directly to the corporation counsel. So that's partly just looking at our current situation where if you walked into the building and want to talk to corporation counsel, we don't have in-house counsel. So we would still be responsible to route it to whoever that is though at that time.
And Andy, under 4B, it says any individual. Does that mean any member of the public as well?
Yeah,
Any individual, either personally or on behalf of an organization, may submit a complaint.
Yep.
Got it. And it lists here who they submitted to, unless it's regarding those two. Then when you go to the town board chair, we'll forward it to corporate counsel, or or designee, who would that be? Or someone that.
if we have the corporation counsel has designated somebody else
Okay,
to be the person to receive the complaints. Yeah.
I agree. Just take that and all that. Distribute it up.
and then corporation counsel could decide whether it's a conflict of interest.
They
Would that
wouldn't,
be-
they wouldn't decide, but they would help prepare
Oh, yeah.
the information for the ethics board to
So
consider
that- Oh, gotcha.
and work directly with the ethics board to consider the complaint, address the issues, develop the investigation, and then whatever the ethics board is going to direct their decision and the decision and whatever penalty or outcome there's going to be.
And Madam Clerk, are we good under this? No member shall serve more than 2 consecutive 3-year terms.
Where's that?
It's under 4A, the last. Or second to last paragraph there.
As far as.
Just so we, because I know our ethics committee. I know who they are as far as county board. I
Yeah.
think I know the citizens. Are we good as far as they're not serving too long?
I don't know that there's a statute on that, Andy. I
I
don't
don't,
think so.
this would be new. I don't think
Oh,
under your, you don't,
okay.
under your current, I don't think there is a
Oh,
term policy.
so this is putting term limits in on this committee.
Yeah.
Got it. Everybody's aware of that, right? Okay. So those are the 2 major ones we want to address here with the ethics.
Those are the ones I wanted to highlight to you that I think are somewhat up for you to debate how you want to handle it.
Sure.
Who would you use for counsel at this time? If something came up?
I would use, I mean, pretty much we've routed most of what we have to a tollless law.
So that's Mr. Phillips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And doing that mostly out of consistency. There's still citations. We're still using local for that, and then Board of Adjustment is being done local, but otherwise, most everything else we've put with a tollless.
Okay, committee. 12A, ethics draft. Any thoughts?
Where did you file?
The complaint is filed with the administrator or the clerk
In writing.
in writing.
Lynn?
Yep. And we outline that the complaint has to include the complainant's name, address, phone, and if they're have a county, if it's an employee filing it, their position, name, address, and position of the person named in the complaint, the specific policy or provision which is alleged have been violated, and information supporting the allegation, including witnesses or other supporting information.
Is there a time frame when that has to be heard?
Yes, it goes in here. We have the timeline within 10 days of the complaint. The corporation counsel designee shall forward a complaint to the subject of the complaint. And then within 30 days, there's a process to determine if there's enough facts and let's see here. In the hearing, they determine the facts, do a little bit of investigation for the ethics board, and then the hearing is held within 30 days of the receipt of the complaint as well.
So I guess, well, when does it go to the ethics board then? I mean, if you read this takes care of it all. We don't need the ethics board. Is what I'm confused maybe.
So the corporation counsel gets the complaint and notifies the ethics board that they're gonna have. He pulls together the information, or he or she, to give to the ethics board within 30 days to have the hearing to make the decision.
Okay,
Council doesn't make, I mean, council will advise, but it's the
Okay.
ethics board that will still,
so I guess my next question is, so say whoever's on that ethics board, there's a complaint against them. How was that gonna be handled? Him or her or whoever it is.
well, I would expect the corporation counsel is gonna advise that person that they're not gonna be part of the process.
Okay.
I mean, they're notified within 10 days that there's a complaint filed against them. And then, but they would
Okay.
be advised not to participate in the ethics.
Thank you, Andy.
board.
Appreciate that.
Okay. So are we good with this draft and move it on to the full county board? Or any other stuff? You're good with it?
Yep,
Is there a motion, Mr. Buckles?
that is a motion.
Okay, I got a motion by Mr. Buckles to approve the ethics draft presented in front of us and move it on for full county board.
Full county
approval.
board, yes.
Yeah.
Second by Mr. Duffy, motion by Mr. Buckles, second by Mr. Duffy. Is there any further discussion?
Maybe just make one comment.
Yes.
To address the public comment. I believe now in your board policies, when you were elected, you fill out a conflict of interest statement.
Yep.
That wouldn't change that. You're still expected to disclose all your conflicts of interest.
Oh, sure.
And in here, there is, not specific to the conflict of interest, but it does indicate, it's not just about your personal, an ethics violation is not just about your personal, benefiting personally. It can be, based on an organization that you represent. So it does somewhat address that type of situation of a conflict of interest if you're
Okay,
if you're a member of multiple organizations, that if you make a decision here that benefits the other organization, you can still potentially have an ethics issue.
And are you reviewing this policy for all the committees?
The
And this was submitted to all the committees to review and update.
the ethics has only been to here.
No, but I mean the rest of the policy.
Yes, the board policies, everybody's gotten a copy of that.
And if you could do those-
I have them.
Yeah.
that's not next. Okay, motion by Mr. Buckles, second by Mr. Duffy to approve the ethics draft and move it on to the full county board for consideration. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, letter B. Board policy amended June of 2022.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
the kind of title it's saved in my computer as. So we started working on it in June and have made updates as we've gone ahead. The committees have been taking up their individual roles and responsibilities. To date of the committees that have been held, economic development is still looking, kick theirs to the next month to wrap up their roles and responsibilities. Otherwise, the committees have been approving it at their committees meetings this month. A couple of them, like Health and Human Services, has an existing set of bylaws, so that's just going to be referenced. Same thing with the zoning committee; they have very extensive bylaws. That's really outlines their roles and responsibilities. So I think it's on this agenda just to address anything else in the overall document, as well as the roles and responsibilities of the administration committee that were drafted. I think we talked through those last month. I didn't have anybody give me any changes since then on the committee, the administration committee roles and responsibilities. And can't remember, a week or two ago, we emailed out the full document to the board, and I have
Yeah.
I've not had any other comments from what's been emailed out. On everything.
you've got all your changes here highlighted, right?
Yep.
So would you like, is this still here for review, Andy, or are we ready to make some action on this?
The only, I mean, it's up for review or discussion if you have any changes you wanted to advise me of or things you want to discuss. Otherwise, the only thing that's hanging out there is the Economic Development Committee roles and responsibilities have not been approved yet.
Oh, yes.
On a couple of parts where the PD assignments didn't match up, is there any action to take, or can they be revised in the policy, or how does that?
Yeah, there's some, you note some comments along the side where Lynn.
Yeah.
With people that have been appointed or the committee makeups now don't meet the policy. I didn't change any of the policies as far as the, having two members of the.
Land, water.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
might be out of compliance with our, the way it currently reads. I didn't make changes to meet what's been appointed. I left those the same. So,
Are you recommending though that we change that?
I'm not, because I think some of those are statute,
Oh,
but it'd be more of a discussion with you if we wanted to, complete, I mean, you'd be out of compliance with your board policies, you already are. But if you wanted to adjust the committees or, I mean, the board can, the board has adopted those individuals already. So the board is able to supersede their policies anytime the board wants
sure.
by a vote of the board, so. I think there's some,
We just understand, right? We missed
yeah,
that.
my
Yeah.
non-legal opinion is you're probably able to make it through the term without making changes.
Right.
It's my non-law school degree opinion.
Okay, question I had was, these are all good, just kind of some housekeeping and cleanup, right?
Yeah,
We had the, not trying to go out of order here, but we had the virtual attendance of committee meetings. That's kind of stayed the same from what we approved.
yeah, I didn't make any changes there. You had changed that or adopted some of these things last fall. I think it was October.
Yeah.
We found some of that included.
I see that, that's on page 18, I think. Jim, Mr. Schliger, did you have any concerns or considerations you were wondering?
Yeah, under public comment. it's-
Public participation?
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's rule 8 on page 35 of the board pack of the committee packet.
Way it's written now. Let's say.
And while we listen to the comments, we will not respond to them. I think that's it. We need to have this, we will not respond to them at this time. Otherwise, we can get into a debate with the person. Oftentimes that might not even be an agenda item. So, I think having these board members will not respond is important. For consistency.
Mhm.
If there's an issue that a person wants, we put before the entire board, there are avenues to do that. 30 minutes. I think I was moving around when they said that, they said 30 minutes was enough of the first time. So when I'm thinking about it, that comes down to first serve, first there, first, you know. Get to speak, I guess it hasn't been a problem, so we just leave that alone.
Oh, the 30-minute thing?
Yeah.
Sure.
And nothing in this policy states or gives the public person the right to speak later. And I
Right.
agree with that. This is, I'm talking about public comment here. There is no inherent right to speak later on a particular subject in this policy, which I'm 100% fine with. But that also means we have no policy about when the chair will or will not recognize that we're going to audience for discussion. We need to look at that. Something that it's been
Yeah. I think
handled well by most chairs that I've been observing. It does need to be, I guess, codified as rule of the day.
Is that under the chair's responsibility, Andy, that section where a chair cannot recognize a person of interest in the audience during discussion? I read something like that.
I'm looking to see here if it's,
No, you're right.
I want to say it's not in here.
And I know Ron zoning has a little different because you have the public hearings, right?
Right,
That come
yeah.
on during each issue.
Public hearings are pretty.
But I agree with you, Mr. Schleter, that we offer public comment at the beginning of the meeting. And that's where we hear from folks for 3 minutes. You know, up to a maximum of 30 minutes.
Especially
So keep their meetings kind of orderly and then
no response.
correct. The public's turn. And is it a state statute, Madam Clerk, that we don't even have to offer public comment?
I believe it's not required.
It's not required.
Not required.
It's not required.
Because I did hear that at
Yeah.
other WCA.
It's not under there's under rule 4 is the chair's responsibilities. It doesn't. All it says is the chair shall preserve the order of the board and decide the questions of order and procedure subject to an appeal to the board. Ensure the board and individual board members act consistent with rules of order. Chair presides at board meetings in an efficient and effective manner and shall set the general tone for each meeting to positive leadership. Board deliberations will be fair, open, and thorough, with all members wishing to speak given a chance to do so. There's nothing specifically saying that the chair can recognize the public at any time, but I would say it's one of those, it's not the chair's job to conduct the meeting. So I think that's somewhat under the discretion of the chair.
Right. Oh, right, I see that.
I mean, you could, under the public participation, add something in that would say the chair of the chair has the discretion during the meeting to recognize
If we're going to allow that.
public or
practice,
subject matter experts or,
allow that practice, we should have policies. Future, there's guidance.
You guys are all chairs. What do you feel about that?
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think the public should speak at the beginning of the meeting, and that's it. Public comment.
Unless otherwise it's a public hearing and they have the right.
Yes.
It's the regular board meeting.
Yeah.
It drags out the meeting. But that should be the discretion of the chair probably, because
Yeah.
every once in a while, there's a topic that requires a little bit. of input.
I like that little blurb you just said about subject matter experts. Because it's at the discretion of the chair.
Yep.
Does that mean like a director too, or is that,
that could be,
like if I want to call on the sheriff to
yeah, as I say, it could be,
comment on this?
often it's gonna be staff. Or it could be out, I mean, people not, I mean, it could be county
Sure.
staff, or it could be.
Yeah.
You could have a topic
Yeah.
where somebody from
Like
the
the
DNR,
Berkey director.
right, or
We
somebody,
want his input. I can
Yeah.
call on him, part of the discretion of the chair.
where it gets gray, I'm sure, is it's okay, if it's the Berkey as an example. There's a Ben that you might want to call on, but there might be more public related people that are
Yeah.
involved with the trail that. Yeah, it gets gray
Which
depending on
they
who
should have
calls.
spoke at the beginning, then, yeah,
Yeah,
Sometimes,
no, go ahead.
sometimes it depends on how the meeting's going. If it's moving right along, you don't mind asking if anybody else has any comments. I've done that on the public works. This ordinance, I mean, 2 or 3 people signed up to speak, but I also, the meeting I knew was gonna move pretty fast, so I asked if anybody else had any comments. They didn't, but at least they came to the meeting. They felt they had a chance to speak. They chose not to. I think that makes the public feel better, but that's an individual situation.
Yeah.
It's not every time.
I like that, at the discretion of the chair.
Yep. I'm sure there's sometimes where the board is discussing something during the matter on the agenda. Where the board member might want to have a question. Give a question to somebody in the audience that can answer it.
Yep, I agree. Can you add that a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can add sentence to that effect.
Great.
She was
I
describing.
got to count it down when we get to number 7. Each board member shall allow 2 opportunities to speak. I haven't noticed it so much with this board, but some of the boards in the past, like, keep on going. And that's the discretion of the chair. You should keep it at.
Yes, we should. I can do a better job of that. I try to. Or allow everyone to speak before someone speaks again. That's very important information. Yeah, go ahead, Gail.
Um, There is the possibility that the chair's discretion. Obviously, is it obvious? We don't need to go further than that. That we obviously cannot discuss anything that is not on the agenda item. We need to have it in writing.
Under public comment.
No other participation.
Not sure where you're at. Are you talking, when you go through the agenda, if someone's going to speak? I'm not clear what you're talking about.
If,
No,
if we're discussing an issue, motion, perhaps. And chair allows an expert to speak. I've seen it happen fairly often, that pretty soon, they get a little further and further away from the topic, and we're discussing things that are technically on the
Yeah.
agenda.
then someone should say point of order.
Okay.
Germaine. Yeah, yeah. No, you're right, Gail.
Well, the chair can't lose control of the meeting.
Right, right.
But the public comment, public can talk about any topic they decide. In their 3 minutes.
Right.
Correct. But And that's why we can't respond, because we have an agenda item. Thank you.
That it must be balanced and orderly bishop proceeding.
I think it's just something to work on.
Yeah. Right. Okay, you got that, Andy?
Yep.
A little bit there, anyone else? See. There was some discussion on replacing a county board member, partway through his or her term.
Yeah.
Because of,
Let's say the chair has to replace it within 30 or 60 days.
yes,
30 days.
yeah,
I don't like that at all.
and then we had changed that. Someone had provided a resolution that we have a special election if it's within that first year of their term. Remember all that?
Yeah.
And that'd be really hard. I reached out to our madam clerk, how are we gonna have a special
It's gonna
election?
cost
It'd be
money.
multiple townships within that district sometimes. How would you ever pull that off and the expense of it? They're only 2-year terms anyway.
You know,
Board has to approve the chair's recommendation.
Well, it's been written this way for ever since I've been on the county board, and it's never been a problem until
But it
late.
recently changed.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's been fine up until then. I mean, why change it? Just leave it.
What page is that on, Matt? Or do you know? I
I'm trying to find it here.
want to make sure everybody's aware of that.
we used to have it set up with chair would appoint. The discretion of the chair once he finds someone. Sometimes you aren't gonna find somebody in that 60 days.
Sure.
And that's the part I don't like.
Let's find it.
Rule number 1, board members. If a vacant occurs on the board, the chair shall, within 30 days of the vacancy, appoint a person who is qualified elector.
Page 7?
Yeah, on page 7. Rule number 1, board members. The appointed person shall serve the unexpired portion of the term which a person is appointed. In the event successor is appointed prior to April 1st, that's for the year that precedes the scheduled supervisor proportion. Special election, I don't like that part of it there at all.
Yeah, okay.
The person is elected serve.
Yeah.
No county office or employee is eligible to vote. So it's page 7, it goes into page 8, rule number 1, board
Right.
members, number 3. Follow me.
The chair shall within 30 days of the vacancy. You don't like that.
I don't like 30 days.
What is the rest? Mr.
And
Schleter,
I don't like a special election of it either. I think the chair should.
right?
I don't like that.
Does there need to be a time frame when the chair appoints? If a vacancy occurs on the board, the chair shall appoint a person.
Well, there should be a time.
Okay,
And Mr. Gidley doesn't like 30.
60, 90?
I would say 90 would be plenty of time to,
I just, sorry. Somebody go.
no, 90 would be give the chair plenty of time to find somebody to fill that vacancy.
Mr. Schleter, Mr. Duffy, you have any comment? You wanna? They're saying within 90 days,
Yeah,
the
that's
chair should appoint.
I remember Hal coming to me and saying, I got 3 people that are applicants. And I don't like any of them. And we would talk it over.
I need time to have Lynn. Right, put it in the newspaper. circulate who might be interested. So 30 days is way too tight.
Well, and there was a time when one gentleman resigned. And this other person came forward and said, I got 60 signatures, I should be appointed to the board. I'm sorry, that don't
Yeah.
cut it. So you run into all different kinds of snags as you go through it. And a lot of them you don't anticipate until you see it. And I just don't want to. I mean, I could live with the 90 days. I don't like the 30 days because sometimes it can't get done.
Yeah.
Because things happen and sometimes it can be done in 30 days.
I think is that the consensus, guys?
Yeah.
90 days, Andy?
90
Was
days.
it 90 days?
Do you need a motion on that? Or-
Well, it's gonna come with some.
Yeah, I think
That's
Andy's
what
gonna
we
make
do.
some edits here.
Yeah,
All right.
I-
Then we do,
somebody had talked about this and then the 90 days. So I was looking to see what I had. Yeah, we can change, I'll edit that to 90 days.
Yeah.
The other was about the special election. I
Yeah.
believe if you just delete the last two sentences.
right, we can
Then-
just delete. The appointed person shall serve for the unexpired portion of the term to which the person is appointed.
Yep, and then delete the rest of it.
Yeah, then delete the next.
Election.
Then you would have
As long as
to.
you guys are okay.
Yeah.
And then you start again with vacancy and vacancy occurs upon the death of an incumbent,
That's the-
Yes.
written resignation, removal, yeah. Everybody good with that? That would mean that we do not have a special election.
Right.
That's good, Andy?
Mhm.
Mr. Duffy, you
If that's
okay with
what you
that?
want to do, yeah.
Okay, anything else in here? Jeff, you want?
I guess I just got one quick question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
On what Lynn and I was talking about at the public safety meeting where if you don't have quite a quorum and a county board member happens to be sitting in there that they can be part of your quorum even though they're not on the committee. And she showed me that we can't do that. That's been done.
Can or can't?
Can't.
Can't.
Is that in the?
It's on all of our disclaimers.
Yeah, and I was just looking for it in here. I didn't find it unless I
Under
overlooked
quorum,
it.
meeting with quorum.
Yeah.
What do
that-
other counties do, Andy? What if,
I'm not, I think my opinion on that one again would be that's kind of a slippery slope when you have just any board member filling in. Under the chairs, under your chairs rules, which rule number 4, rule 4 sub 7,
what page?
be page 10 of the document or page 32 of today's agenda. The chair shall have the power to vote at committee meetings when requested by that committee chair to fill a position caused by the absence of a member of that committee.
Yeah.
So that's my, I don't know all counties, but the few I do,
Okay.
that's generally the practice is the chair can make a quorum of a committee and then participate in that committee, not any board
Not
member.
any other board.
Yeah. That's-
Gee, then
What
we
do you,
can
how do you
put
guys
that
feel
in.
about that?
Well, I kind of don't like that because there's times lately that lucky we can get a quorum with the committee.
Right.
And we could, if you don't have a quorum and one of the board members or whoever's available, you can't get them. You can't get business done. It's gotta all be put back.
Yeah.
In the next agenda, next one.
You don't have a quorum because obviously people didn't show up, but did they call and say they weren't gonna make it?
Yes.
So going to the meeting, you don't have a quorum.
Well, no, we don't always get a call. Sometimes you'll get 2 people that'll call, but there's 5 people, and the next one that don't show up. Now you don't have a quorum.
Yeah.
That's where I was going.
Yeah.
So what we've done in the past, and maybe it's not in the rules, is if we know we're going to do a meeting, not knowing we're not gonna have a quorum, we have in the past called someone local, like Dale's close by, someone, Tom's close by, if they're available, have them fill in. But that apparently that's not a legitimate way to do it. But maybe we should make it a legitimate way to do it, because once again, you're supposed to call in so the chair knows prior. But unforeseen things happen.
Yeah.
And if someone misses a meeting, because I know I missed a meeting one time because I hit a deer on the way up here, well, then obviously I didn't get it. You know, I mean, but
Yeah,
you want to be able to cover it, and you still want to have a meeting because you need to get the business done each and
Right.
every month. So can we do something in the board rules and say, if we don't have a quorum, can we call another board member in?
But the committee chair can,
Right, because I used to, you know, and that's why I questioned that when Lynn showed that to me, because I sat in on land and water many a time, and they didn't have a quorum because I was up here. They called me because I was working up here, so that's why I was shocked when she showed that to me, so. I believe, and I agree, I think we should be able to pick a board member that's in the area here.
to make sure we can get business done.
Get
because all your
business
directors-
Right.
Great.
Because we have some that do not show up and they don't call, so.
I think these are your board rules. So I think you can do that. I mean, I think you can make a rule that would allow that. The only, I don't know, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Just might, it has the potential to lead to some ugliness potentially if you know, depending what's on the agenda,
I agree.
you know, where I'm like,
Yeah.
depending what the topic is and somebody's gonna be gone, I'm gonna pick this person rather than this person because that's part of politics.
So you're right.
It is.
Exactly right.
So
This, this page 8 and 9, Andy, is that regarding committees and the county board? Meetings and forum? Because when you down
Yes.
here, the chairperson,
It changes them.
right?
That's what we didn't know what we were doing, we put these rules together, we pieced them together and they worked for how many years?
Sure,
Guess what, you're always
sure.
gonna change them.
But I do like the idea where the chair, committee or board chair is able, mainly the committee chair, to appoint another county board member to meet a quorum.
Right.
That's important. To me,
I like to think that you're just gonna call someone local, you're not gonna worry about.
right,
Right.
But that carries weight.
it does. Oh, yes.
As I said earlier, I.
Yeah. Yep. Appreciate your input though. It's just weird.
See you, Dale. Have a good day.
I'm just scrolling through here to see where it would best fit. Probably would go under rule number 2, quorums and
Rule number 2.
meetings and quorums.
Yeah.
That gives us some cleanup to do. Bring it back again next month.
Yeah, he's got a few edits now there. I think they're good.
Then if he wants to check with Andy on some of this other stuff, Andy Phillips, you know, that's fine.
Yeah, this one in particular could play devil's advocate for a little while.
Yeah,
I was even thinking of some of the other, you said, call somebody local. Well, now you're waiting the city of Hayward. And this, I mean, those would be the people closest by,
Oh, yeah.
somebody could take issue with.
yeah, you're right.
But I mean, it's
I
also,
never looked
these
at
are-
that side of it.
go back to saying, these are your rules, so.
I guess,
Can't always get a hold of the county board chair.
Right.
Just teasing you.
Yeah. Well, I really didn't see that in zone.
Yeah.
You could call on somebody.
so what other kind of wording could a person put in there to? cover
Meet a
that?
quorum.
And if there is any wording, and you can put it there to cover. It would have to maybe be up to the whole committee to ask who to call, but you're burning time then.
Yeah.
Unless you know prior, you're not gonna have a quorum, then it's different.
If you know prior, you're not gonna have a quorum, you probably would reschedule a meeting.
Exactly.
But I can see what Ron's saying. We've had where you're missing two, and then all of a sudden you lose the third at the meeting.
Right. Wow, I kind of like where you could definitely put that on the committee chair's responsibility. They're put in place for a reason.
I guess if I had to choose something, I would say it's the discretion of that committee's chair.
Yep.
And if you pick somebody that would sway it one way or another. Maybe it would be something that would come to the full board and then everybody would have a shot at
Okay, can you draft some language? Andy?
Yep, under rule two
Under
meetings and
meetings
forums,
for- Yep,
that. Doing something.
additional rule allowing chair to appoint a board member not on the committee to make a quorum.
Mr. Duffy, he's retired now, he's probably welcome.
You're not gonna have a great choice. There's not much notice. So who are you gonna find?
Mr. Duffy, you've been drug in on a few of them, though, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Duffy and Mr. Duffy's leader, they live right here.
Yeah.
You can
I,
find some-
I came in once here.
Procedure question.
Yeah.
Now, is Andy, are you able to just create a list of just the changes that are made and send to the board to review?
I think I haven't done that, but I think I should do that.
Rather than sending the whole thing and everybody have to read through the whole thing, to find out
Yeah.
what changes were
Yeah,
discussed today.
yeah.
Because they're all highlighted, but it's getting hard
Yeah,
to
it's
read them
getting
all.
hard.
Harder.
Yep.
I like the way it's set up right now, it's easy to pick out. That's
It is.
Mhm.
What we gonna do it.
Unless you just make a list to bring up as.
Yeah,
It's pretty beat up.
We do, I think we've hammered this out. Where is it, Madam Clerk, where you added pledge of allegiance to every committee agenda?
Well, it's in
I
the,
like that.
it's basically in the order, the recommended order of the, of meeting. Not saying it has to be done, but it's a part of the recommended
Okay.
order.
I guess I just have something,
I'm page 10,
page 10,
yep, bottom, order of business, organizational meeting, and then,
something,
and then number 2, other meetings as well on page 33 of the packet.
oh, order of business.
Yeah.
Oh, or agenda, okay.
That should be on there anyway, yes, I should be.
And then what came up at the Wisconsin County's Chairman's Forum that I went to, they have concerns about the last item on the agenda. Any other items for discussion only? Every other board chair mentioned this can get way off track. If there's way too much discussion on something that's not on the agenda already. So they kind of recommended you stay with any other, what do we call it?
Any other matters for discussion?
Yeah, or agenda items for future.
Oh,
So
Future agenda items.
just stop at future agenda items.
Yes. And if anyone wants to add something, yep, future agenda items.
so do you
Then
want
we can
that?
take those into consideration, Andy, and not start a full-blown discussion on something that's not on the agenda.
So change there's a bullet here that's correspondence, reports from conferences and meetings and other matters for discussion. Change the last one to say items for
Yep, I
future
think it's
agendas.
Fine, 14 and 15,
Okay,
correspondence, reports from conferences and meetings, future agenda items.
yep, okay.
Is that a part of a board policy or is it just on our agendas? It has to be changed in the template.
I would change it in the board policies and then that way. it would
And then,
change the-
then
yeah.
after that, it's approved, then change it in the template.
Yep.
Okay.
Because otherwise, then everybody agrees that can get way off.
Again, it's the.
And we've had that. I've
had that happen.
It's the
Yeah,
burden, the burden of the chair to cut it off.
yeah,
The chair's gonna keep that within. Yeah.
right. So,
So the only
There's
words you
a
gotta
deadline.
take off there is other matters for discussion only. Because correspondence, you can communicate examples, so your county fair starts. today.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You want to inform the
Any
rest of the
other
board.
announcements?
No.
Announcements?
Trout fest. Yeah.
So that's all I have, I guess.
Good.
So yeah, I'll make edits and get it back out and. Seeing as economic development has to wrap up theirs as well, we can push this. To
Good.
September.
Are you okay with that then, Mr. Duffy?
Yeah.
One more shot at it. All right, thank you, Andy. Number 13, County Administrator's Report.
Let's give you a verbal. I started to type out a written report, and it's pretty much the same things we've been talking about in the committees. Board policies, getting that up. Muni code, we made some progress there. I think that might be ready for September's meeting as well. I think we've got everything in there, or we have it all reviewed, and we found a few gaps, but that's getting closer to being done. One comment related to both the board policies and Muni code. I've asked Andy Phillips or Tolis to give you guys a written opinion as to whether your board policies should be codified and be an ordinance rather than just a board policy. He verbally has said that would be his recommendation, but it said, give me something in writing for you to understand why that might be, something in writing for the board to understand why that should be something you might want to consider.
Yeah, I don't want to see that. Thank you.
Courthouse renovation, I've updated a few committees, trying to get a few of the items that we're responsible for within the budget. But otherwise, construction is going well. Broadband, as discussed at the last meeting, we've dispersed one of the requests for funds to Mosaic. Otherwise, I've coordinated some discussion with the LCO they have a broadband coordinator as well as a state PSC, and just trying to assemble the pieces to understand what's going on. One item that's noteworthy that just happened yesterday. So LTD, which is a company out of Minnesota that got a lot of money to bring broadband into Sawyer County, has been denied by the FCC. They got kicked out. So that's who the town of Draper partnered with. So we had already heard last week that they got a bunch of territory in Minnesota as well. And so the Minnesota PSC put out an RFP to hire somebody to basically investigate LTD to see if they were capable of doing the work they say they can. And then almost like this next week now, the FCC has denied access to the funding for them.
So they are not allowed to come in the state of Wisconsin to do the work.
Well, they're not going to be able to get the money that they were supposed to get from the FCC to do the work.
Because one of the steps that they were going to do was they were going to go off all our power line poles, but yet they never contact us to do that.
Right.
And we're not going to do it for nothing.
Yeah, and I think that's why Minnesota decided to hire some help to assess LTD because of the way they were going to do it. So that, I don't know where that goes from there, but that was something the industry has been waiting for because there was a lot of doubt about LTD. So yeah, it is. The anticipation is now all that money, the federal money that they were going to get awarded for Sawyer County, now they'll put it back up for auction so another company can try to access it. Opioid settlements, we received our first payment of $20,135. Second one should be coming before the end of the year. The securitization is still progressing. Sawyer County's name is still in there as being interested, and at some point you'll have a decision put in front of you as to whether or not to secure it or to take the money over the next 16 years.
And they did discuss this too at Wisconsin counties. And they're really, it seems that Wisconsin county officials are really in favor of securitization. You know, what is that about? I mean, did they get some kickback from that, or why are they pushing it so hard?
I don't think the county association gets a kickback. I mean, they're using their partners like PMA to do the to facilitate this. I think some of the bigger counties, I mean, if you're getting in line to get a few $1 million and you can get 75% of that up front, that's something to work with. So I think some of them are really pushing harder to get the money in-house.
Okay.
Whereas if you're like us getting 480,000 and you're going to get 400,000, you know, that's not, you're not gonna be able to do much with that.
Yeah.
You can't just launch a new program or hire a lot of, or really any staff.
They did bring up what you said about potential bankruptcy and not getting
Yep.
payments for any of this.
Yeah, there's two settlements. One is the Johnson & Johnson settlement. Then there's the distributors.
Yep.
There isn't a lot of concern about Johnson & Johnson. There is some I've heard about the distributors that might go through bankruptcy at some point, and then you would lose those settlement dollars.
And there is a second pot of money, right? I mean, we talked about this when we're talking about now, but retailers or somebody's got some more. money
There's
to put in?
potential for more settlements to come, but
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what they said.
yeah. And there's the second pot, like the local governments, counties are getting 75% of the settlement. States getting 25%, and then the state's 25%, they'll be coming up with either allocation process or grant process for counties to have access to that. There is a opioid summit on the 22nd. WCA is putting it on to talk about potential uses of the funds by counties and how they could work together and some of the ideas that are out there. Budget process, finance heard some of this the prior meeting. We're underway this week. We've been meeting with individual departments, especially, I mean, the smaller ones. We're kind of saving the big three for next week. But Mike and Randy put together some good documents on current fund balances and projections for the budget. So we're right in the middle of it. Net new construction came in at 1.17%, which is about $100 and some $1,000 of additional levy we'll be able to generate this year, which doesn't go real far, but it's 1.17% is a pretty good number actually for the region.
Right.
As far as department meetings, department head meetings, we've been looking at again employee engagement ideas. I think the retention payment went over well. We already have flexible scheduling in the employee manual, allowing departments to do that. We're just trying to pin that down a little bit more with some examples of departments that can do flexible start and end times during the day, and 4 10s in a week or 9 days in 2 weeks, and trying to get we're going to maintain open hours at the building. That's important, and access to the public. And then beyond that, how can we make the work environment flexible for our employees and make it helpful in attracting and retaining people. And we have employee picnic potluck on the 16th. I don't know if the board was invited. I didn't send out the invites, but if you want to come on the 16th, we're having a potluck.
Good. Personal invitation.
Yeah.
There you go.
And then, kind of the online store for Surrey County logo gear, just kind of the team building thing. And the other thing we're going to be adding in here, we've had some HR issues that Rose has been working hard on, and we're addressing those. But I'm going to be setting up a reporting hotline. It's a paid service, doesn't cost that much, but it's just be another opportunity if employees have situations of they think somebody the number one way to catch fraud usually is by somebody reporting fraud. Somebody has to be willing to say something. So it's a 1-800 number on an internet portal site where people can go in and lodge complaints, or if there's an HR issue they don't feel comfortable addressing face to face. We just want to make sure employees are comfortable speaking out if they need to speak out.
In regards to the budget, Andy, we're already going down the road of short-term borrowing for capital
Yep,
projects?
for capital improvement program. Yep.
Still gonna do that again, right?
Yep.
And how's our contingency fund for the expansion?
We're pretty much even from where
Are
we
we?
started. Yep. I did.
So that gap funding is about the same, hasn't really.
Hasn't really moved. I guess to a little more detail. So there was things within the Myron contract, including the contingency.
Yeah.
So the only, we've taken the generator out, so that saves some money.
Yep.
But we found that there was no plans to handle the water coming off the roof, drains over the sidewalk and into the parking lot. Well, while everything's tore up, now is an opportunity to put gutters on it, run it down spouts, and then under the parking lot to connect with the storm drain. So that way we don't have any surface drainage. So that was an additional 35 to 40,000.
How the architects and engineers overlook that?
That's exactly what I have.
Yeah. And just looking at, maybe they didn't realize that was going to be an issue, but it has been an issue historically, especially over here where there's a little more shade.
Yeah.
That in the right times of the year, that water drains across the sidewalk and then ices up.
Yeah.
So we've had slips and falls and workers' comp claims, nothing major.
Yep.
But seeing as now everything's tore up, we thought it was a good time to jump on getting that all underground. Then the other side of the project is the county was responsible for, like relocating utilities like the fiber optics and demolition on asbestos costs. We looked with that. The furniture and the AV. So like the AV, and these were all estimated by companies that worked with the designers, with the architects. So like the there's your video, the AV was estimated at 205,000 and it came in at 245,000. We actually had it quoted again to go ahead and break the purchase. So Mike's been working with other vendors and that's all due tomorrow. We're getting additional quotes from other companies to hopefully bring that cost back down to where it was projected. Same thing with furniture, projected at 121,000, came in at 132. We're adjusting our order and going to have maintenance build some of the fixtures instead. They build a number of the desks already and do a really good job. I think we'll actually save money and get better quality work out of them. Utility fiber optic relocates was estimated at 26 and came in at almost double that at 52. So that's already been done. So but we're trying to manage our side of the cost as well. But yeah, our gap on the construction funding has not changed.
Yes. Okay. All right, anything else for?
How about our grant writing? Is that going over or department heads sending people?
Some of the department heads do have people writing the grants. We've added staff in public health specifically for writing grants, but
Then we were talking about coordinating with LCO.
yeah, I
You
have
guys
not,
out there?
I have not met with the LCO grant writing department yet, but that's.
Gotta keep pushing.
list.
Got
Yep.
grants out there.
Yes.
Yeah, we've got a number of grants right now we're looking at for the lot, for the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
Trying to get through those, PSAP, like there's a PSAP grant. We've run into a hurdle because in order to be eligible, you have to have 2 dispatchers on at all times. We don't have 2 at all times. We're trying to figure out how to adjust.
Who's fighting that?
We'll write that internal. Rose has done those for the sheriff's department in the past. No. But I've talked to the departments that if they see some grant opportunities, that they don't have the capability to take on that, let's talk about contracting, with,
Yeah.
Indian Head and Planning Commission, LCO, any of those are able to be contracted with.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Appreciate that, always appreciate that. Future agenda items. We think of anything?
Well, we're gonna move policies again.
Yep. We'll revisit those and hopefully approve them and move on. Sounds good, okay. Correspondence, reports, council meetings. Surrey County Fair opens today. When is the sale?
Saturday, 4 o'clock, bring your checkbook.
Saturday, 4 o'clock. Not the county's checkbook, right?
Right.
The board chair doesn't buy a hog and we do
Right.
a hog roast.
Hey, for the potluck, I was gonna say. The pulled pork potluck. Anything else? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
And you have a resolution to sign, so.